Thanks for coming, Mark.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for allowing us to be here. On behalf of the Association of Poinciana Villages, I want to say thank you to the food drive that we usually take care with the support of Representative La Rosa. Thank you very much. Our company really appreciate it. On behalf of the HOA, I will ask you to allow me to let our General Counsel, Tom Slayton, have 20 years of experience on HOA. He could bring us some light on this issue that's coming up. And one of our homeowners that was a driving force in the beginning when we started the wonderful community that we have in Poinciana today, Renata Ward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for the service you provide to the community and to the county. I'm not speaking here in regards to the fact that I was the president of the HOA for 2 years previous. I am now speaking to you as a homeowner. I live in Village 9, which is Broadmoor. We are a mobile home community subdivision. We pay taxes. We own our lots. I wanted to let you know that prior to the existence of the management company that is now in place, we had a management in place, in-house, who retired, and prior to their retirement and their departure, made the recommendation to get a management company in place because it makes a lot of sense for the size of the HOA that we are. And since we have hired and are operating with the management company, First Service Residential, we have made strides that were not accomplished in better than 20 years prior. Delinquencies were not pursued. Nothing happened. The homeowners wanted a pool. It never happened. Within the 2.5 years that we've had a management company, there assertively pursued delinquencies. We're able to recover a lot of money, which has now been invested in a new building, a pool, and you were given a picture of what is currently in place. It is almost there for the certificate of occupancy. The only thing that's missing is a sod, and that is waiting for drier weather so that we can get it installed. As of Monday, we will occupy the building and put furniture in. In other words, the accomplishments that we have now seen within 2.5 years have been magnificent, have happened because of the fact that we have a capable management company. Okay. In addition to that, there are services in our community that you might want to know about. We have the Puerto Rico Federal Affairs Agency.
Forgive me. Without objection, I was going to double their time since they have several speakers. Is everybody okay with that?
I appreciate
Continue.
it.
Can you reset the clock? Thanks.
Didn't realize 3 minutes are so fast. We have the Puerto Rican Federal Affairs Agency in our buildings. We have satellite offices for Congressman Alan Grayson, Mike LaRosa, Senator Marco Rubio. We have Access Florida, Department of Children and Families, the ESO programs, which is teaching English. We have 100 participants. They're representing, the workforce is represented every 2 weeks in Poinciana, and the county provides partnerships for our competition pool. In other words, we are very successful and very positive, and we like what we have, and we'd like to continue with that. And thank you for listening.
Hi, thank you, members of the delegation. My name is Tom Slayton. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Larson & Associates. Our firm has been practicing exclusively in the area of homeowners association law for 21 years. I've been with the firm for 12. I've been recognized as an expert by the 5th Judicial Circuit on the matters of homeowners associations. I currently represent Poinciana. I also represent Celebration, another larger homeowners association in Osceola County, and a number of other associations as well. And I wanted to speak very briefly on the proposed legislation that you have brought before us. First of all, I understand that it's a draft and you're looking for comments, and so I want to be as constructive as possible, but I also want to identify fundamental issues that I want you to be aware of. The most important one is regarding developer voting rights. It seems to be that that's a primary focus of your bill, and I want to let you know that I have personally litigated the issue of changing developer voting rights in communities And specifically, the Ninth Judicial Circuit, which you're seeking to rule on these issues, has already ruled that if you make a change to developer voting rights, it may not be retroactive. And you can take a look at the Metro West Master Association lawsuit, where the Ninth Judicial Circuit ruled that if you create a law affecting developer voting rights for an association that pre-exists that statute change, that is non-enforceable and will not be upheld. You can also look in the Fifth Judicial Circuit. There's a Harbor Hills Homeowners Association court case, same ruling. Any changes or attempted changes to developer voting rights will be considered unenforceable and not changed. I also wanted to address the idea of using the supervisor of elections and the potential costs that are involved. You may not be aware that the state of Florida Department of Business Professional Regulation already arbitrates election disputes for homeowners associations, and it involves a $50 filing fee. That's it. So I don't know what the possible expense for the supervisor of elections would be, but a $50 filing fee is pretty insignificant, and the DBPR already addresses homeowner and condominium election disputes with full review of all the documentation. Finally, I would point out that the idea of creating representative districts where you can't be elected at large, while it's an idea that might work for a few associations like the larger ones, will not work for smaller associations. I represent homeowners associations with 20, 30, 50, or 100 members, and to create or force them to create districts is really impossible. They would simply be arbitrary and would substantially change some of the development documents themselves.
Members, any questions? Senator Stargell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question. And I'm not super familiar with the Poinciana Villages area, so I apologize for if it might be a naive question. But my understanding, it goes across 2 county lines. Do the districts as separated? Are they separated by the county lines, like section? Are they dispersed that way by villages, I guess, if you will, or?
Yes, they are. They have 9 villages separated into Osceola and Polk County. So the way the proposed legislation works, it would only apply to those districts or villages that are part of Osceola County. And as an FYI, the Master Association of Poinciana Villages, its office is in Polk County, not Osceola County.
Okay, thank you. That answered my question. Then on something a little bit more interesting, or at least maybe some, is this new complex that y'all built. What was the cost of that? Do you have an idea?
For mailing, it will be approximately $130,000.
No. I'm talking about this that was built.
For $4.4 million.
And was that paid out of dues?
Yes, ma'am. When we came aboard 2.5 years ago, we readdressing management, how to spend our money, reviewing the way that they were handling their dues in the past. We remanaged that in a way that allow us to give back the community the dues that they were paying to the association. So the board approved $4.4 million to move in that direction. Not only that, we have enough savings to enter in a public-private partnership with Osceola County, where we're going to have a competition pool where APV is putting in $3.2 million, and Osceola is putting $5.2 million for a competition pool for the community. So those are the greatest achievements as an HOA that we could talk about in Poinciana today.
And one final question. And
Yes, you're recognized for a series.
I'm sorry. What are the annual dues of the average homeowner at Poinciana Villages?
$251 a month. And last night, having said that, we present our budget with all the services. Dues are not going up.
That's per month or per year? They're all in years.
$20 a month.
$20 a month.
$20 a month. Okay. So
And
200. Okay, a year.
we're keeping the same assessment with all the services, the extra services that we are providing.
Representative Cumby and I were just recently in Polk City, where they had the opening of a community center that had to be donated because the city didn't have the funds to put together. So you'd be commended on this accomplishment here. That's nice.
That's right.
I'd like to add something to the homeowner bill that you have proposed.
Ma'am, there's not
my opinion.
There's not an existing question, but
No, but-
Representative LaRosa, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman.
Could
can I
I-
ask the question to understand what her
Certainly.
misunderstanding of the bill or concern?
I
of the bill?
think that your proposal has some merit. However, in the case of APV and the Homeowner Association of Poinciana, it cannot be enforced to begin with because we have documentation that requires certain processes in the voting program. I do agree, however, the timing of the election needs to be changed. Every voter should have the right to vote. I think you should also remember that the developer is not just a developer, he's also a homeowner or a lot owner legally. And in addition to that, I think it's very important that you look at Statute 617, which is the voting procedure for the condominiums. It has a lot of merit for the homeowner associations. You might want to look at that and incorporate that or use some of the ideas because that has proxy. We do not have proxy in APV, and that has been wrong and should be changed. I agree.
I have a question about posture.
Follow up?
Is there going to be a point where folks that are not registered on this list to come up and speak about the HOA?
Certainly,
bills
if they
proposed?
fill out a speaker card
Okay.
identifying themselves, they will absolutely be given the
Okay,
opportunity to
okay,
do so.
that's, all right. I have a question in specific to Senator Sturgill's question earlier.
You're recognized.
Just for clarity, the amenity building, the clubhouse-style building with the pool that was built, if I understand you correctly, that was done with reserves that were set aside in the HOA budget?
No, not reserves entirely. This was money realized from collections of delinquencies. Some money was used from the reserves that were designated to capital improvements. But the money, priority money came from collections.
But the funds, but some funds that were reserved for improvements such as this is what was used?
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
That's what I was trying to
Thank you for listening.
Members, any other questions? Senator Sturgill, you're recognized.
Thank you. I have one final question. I'm not sure which of you would be the best to address this with regards to the concern of the proxy vote or the length of time of the voting, and maybe the attorney is the best one to answer that. Is there a mechanism within the HOA structure to allow you to change your current ability to accommodate if you should decide you wanted to do something, or is it just set once and done, or is there ability to be flexible in those things?
No, it's absolutely flexible. Like most homeowners associations, the documents, and specifically the bylaws in this case, may be amended by the associations, the village associations and the master association. And so if the desire is there, then the association can change it to accommodate some of the points that have been addressed in this particular legislation, or as what the board would see as best.
You're recognized for a series.
And is that an overly laborious process, or is it, I mean, is it easy if you tell me quickly what that would be, or is it a big-time process?
No, it's not a cumbersome process for the master association. It's an action that's approved by the board of directors.
Okay.
Representative Cortez, you are recognized.
I'm going to make a comment. Wouldn't this all have been avoided if the association had talked to the people, gave them communication, and we wouldn't be here right now?
Who wants to answer that?
There's been always an interest, and since we were hired in changing the way of living in Penn, that we are doing not only the best we can, but we are in the process of improving our communication with the community. Since I started working in Poinciana 2 years ago, first time ever in 40 years, we implemented each village meetings in order to address the concerns of our community. So we have a community over 70,000 residents, and it's a work on progress at this time to expand our communications throughout the ways we have.
Sure.
That's the only thing that's holding us back, is
Sure.
it's ourselves. Yes, you're recognized for a series.
Thank you. We had talked, I'd say, what, a year ago, maybe, not even a year ago, a couple of months ago, and I asked you,
Not more than 5 weeks ago.
no, but before that I had talked to you, yes, and I told you, I said, you need more communication in the community, talk to them, let them know. You waited, what, 6 months later to talk to me again? And then I told you again, this is the problem, there's no communication, you wouldn't have nobody here, everybody be on the same page, we have everything, you more transparency, and I told you that. We wouldn't be here right now discussing this right now. The city issue would have never came up, none of that stuff. If we would have, like I said, we have to communicate with you, you have to communicate with us, and I have to communicate with the public. And I get all these complaints, and then I pass them to you, and I told you what was going on. So for the future, can you talk to the community and let them know what's going on? And let's get this animosity out of here, and we don't have to be in these meetings like this, and help the folks in Poinciana that are losing their homes and give them a chance to explain why they're losing their homes, which you have not done, which I know have because I've been sent the emails. And I appreciate you appreciating us, but we got to work together. If this doesn't work together with the folks, we're not going to get anything done. And that's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Representative. Members, any other questions? I had a brief set of questions. So it appears that the objections are to Section 4, dealing with the certification by the supervisor of elections, Section 5, dealing with the developer having a limit on how long the lots are vacant, Section 6, dealing with the equal size districts, and Section 2 and 3, dealing with the courts. Is that a fair description, Counselor, of your objections to the bill?
There's no word about the delinquencies.
So basically 4 through 6 plus Section 2 and 3 is, effective coming law. So is that a fair description of your testimony?
That is, and she's also pointing out that there's no address for how you handle notification to delinquent owners whose voting rights have been suspended. But, in the context of what's being proposed, you are correct.
And if it was absent as to delinquent payors, then would your opinion be that this would not affect any other qualifications of voters and that would go back to the covenants?
Yes, that's correct. It would go back to the covenants.
And what is the current time for voting in Poinciana Villages elections right now?
12 to 7 p.m.
On
12 to 7 p.m.
On how many days?
1 day.
And is there, what notices go out?
The traditional notice that we follow in any HOA is posted. Right now, it's in our newspaper. If you want to participate for our next year, we are already announcing it.
Okay. But there's no letters that go out to individual homeowners currently?
It's too costly.
Well, I understand. I'm just asking the fact.
Yes, when we send out the annual billing, there's a notice there as well when the elections are going to take place. For APB to send out a mailing to all the homeowners is over $13,000 each time.
So if we were to narrow the bill down to allowing voting by proxy, voting by mail, and expanding the polls without requiring certified mail be sent, without requiring the supervisor elections to certify, without requiring the vacant land issue, or the equal member districts, would that be costly or burdensome for you all?
Well, I could certainly present it to the board. It's a board decision, but I could certainly present it to the board and through the attorney that represents APV to give them that explanation.
I'd also like to add that I think you had some good questions earlier on about mail-in voting, because what your statute doesn't really address is the process for mail-in voting. If you take a look at the provisions in Chapter 718, you might be able to borrow from some of that if you feel like you want to require that for some Osceola homeowners associations. But here's the important thing. If you require all Osceola County homeowners associations to undergo mail-in voting, you're changing the elections for many, many associations, some of which have budgets that are in the $5,000 to $10,000 range, and their most significant budget item would end up being mail-in voting. So I'm just bringing that to your attention when you're thinking about this.
Now,
because just mailing in your ballot doesn't really work. You have to follow the procedures established by the state.
So you're saying there's an additional cost just to review a vote by mail versus if you didn't have to send it out, if they merely picked it up at the association headquarters and dropped it off or paid for the postage back, there's a significant cost just to count those votes?
If you want to follow the state's current election procedures for mail-in voting, yes. Because under the state laws and under the arbitration rules that are already being adopted by the DDPR, mail-in voting, if you follow what's required, requires that you mail out the ballot. You can't just go in and pick it up. Under state law, you actually have to mail out the ballot to the address given by the homeowner. The ballot has to be filled out by the homeowner, and there's a double envelope system with an additional postage for mailing it back.
And so your arguments as far as Ninth Judicial Circuit and 5th DCA precedent really go to 4 through 6, and it's just an argument of cost with regard to number 1, dealing with vote by mail, and then 2, dealing with the certified mail issue. It's a cost argument, not a constitutional argument for subsection 1 through 3. Is that correct?
Right. The mailing, the notice to the membership is a procedural issue, although as Mark will tell you, to send out certified letters to almost 26,000 homes.
Around $130,000.
Excuse me, ma'am, that's the second time that you've interrupted proceedings. If it happens again, I'm going to have to ask that you be removed. Thank you for your testimony today. Members, any other questions? Oh, yeah, we have Senator Stargell. You're recognized.
Sorry, just a clarification on the constitutionality question. If I understood you correctly earlier, you were saying that you can't, that none of these changes we did today would in fact change anything about the previous covenants of what's already been established, or is that incorrect?
No, the proposal regarding developer rights would absolutely, in my opinion, be overturned by the same circuit that you're going to ask to review it, because it already has. There's a large community called Metro West. There was significant litigation because it was a mixed-use residential commercial property with a developer who remained in control. Some homeowners sued Metro West Metro Association developer to try to gain control of the association, and the Ninth Circuit clearly ruled that under the state law, under 72307, which is cited in this proposal, you cannot retroactively change a developer's voting rights. If a developer has voting rights, you cannot modify or change it any more than you could for any other homeowner resident in the community.
Right, and just to summarize 1 through 3, we have a legal opinion would be constitutional, and then 4 through 6, we have a legal opinion now that it would, at least in his opinion, would be unconstitutional based upon Ninth Circuit precedent, so I hope that helps our members. Members, any other questions?
Just a question to
Yep,
you.
by all
Does that
means.
clarify the function of this as a local bill, though, or as a general law bill?
It's still a local bill because in the preamble it talks about Osceola County only.
Okay, and just to clarify, so my concerns are with that, is this actually a local bill? Can we do that? Not so much the process of the constitutionality, but does this constitute as a local bill? And that's some of the question. We can get into that later if we
Yeah, and what probably will happen is a potential of removing 4 through 6 and voting on a revised bill of 1 through 3, all of which in every section just state Osceola County. Yes, Representative LaRosa.
Thank you, Chairman. So if I understand this then, of what you've said and the comments and the questions, is that then how would the Polk County residents in Poinciana react, or how would they be held under this potential law?
They wouldn't be.
So then half of Poinciana would run under one set of laws, and then the other half of Poinciana would run under a different set of laws.
Right.
Sounds like advocacy for Polk County to do this next. Members, any other questions? Okay, I wanted to take a poll of the members regarding non-Poinciana speakers being able to speak before we go over to lunch. Is that something that everybody is okay with?
Chairman, I think so.
I make a motion for, I accept a motion from Representative LaRosa to have non-Poinciana speakers finish up so that in the afternoon we could just focus on this issue.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next up, thank you.
Thank
Next
you.
up, we will have Timothy Ayers, Field Organizer, American Heart Association. Thanks
Thank
for
you,
coming
Mr.
today.
Chairman. Members of the legislative delegation, my name is Timothy